What if I told you that a quiet digital maneuver by China just rattled the foundations of the global economy, and what's in your wallet might be the next casualty? While the world was busy watching headlines about tariffs and tech stocks, a silent revolution unfolded. China has just made a strategic move that could send shockwaves through every financial system on Earth. It's not just about trade anymore. It's about control. It's about rewriting the rules of global finance and technology. And you might be closer to the fallout than you think. Let's start with the digital currency shift that could upend everything. In a bold and calculated move, China has woven its digital currency, the ECNY, directly into the financial infrastructure of 10 Southeast Asian nations and 6 countries across the Middle East. This is more than a digital payment option. It's a direct bypass of the SWIFT network, which has been dominated by the US dollar for decades. For the first time, a massive portion of global trade could now operate entirely outside the Western financial grid. And that's a game changer. China's mission is clear: sever reliance on the dollar and build a monetary system immune to US sanctions. It's building a self-contained financial architecture that can withstand external shocks. And it's not happening in a vacuum. This came right after President Trump reignited trade tensions with steep new tariffs. China's response wasn't just diplomatic, it was economic warfare. Now let's dig into the numbers. In 2022, China-ASEAN trade surged to nearly $1 trillion, a staggering 120% increase over a decade. ASEAN is now Beijing's biggest trade ally. And now the digital yuan is becoming the currency of choice across key markets in Asia and the Middle East. What we're seeing might be the beginning of the end for the dollar's dominance. But the financial front is just one side of the story. Let's talk chips, semiconductors, the silicon that powers everything from your phone to your car. And here too, China is rewriting the narrative. After the US pressured the Netherlands to revoke export licenses for advanced chip-making machines, China was left with $15 billion worth of unusable equipment. Most thought this would cripple China's tech ambitions, but Beijing had other plans. Backed by $75 billion in state funding and an army of over 50,000 engineers, China went from struggling to self-sufficient. It developed its own semiconductor machinery, software, and infrastructure. Today, over 60% of the tools used in Chinese fabs are domestically built, and companies like Seekar and SMEC are no longer just surviving, they're innovating. Remember the Huawei Mate 60 Pro? It featured a 7-nanometer chip built entirely with Chinese tech. Now SMIC is testing 5-nanometer chips and aiming for 3-nanometer using AI-driven lithography. They no longer need EUV technology. They found their own way forward. Meanwhile, ASML, the European chip-making giant, saw its revenue plummet 27% in Q4 2024. The West is feeling the sting, and that's just the beginning. China's offensive extends into the markets. It's dumping US Treasury bonds, offloading American tech stocks. The message is crystal clear. This is no longer just a trade war or a chip war. This is a currency war, a tech war, an economic paradigm shift. And make no mistake, your finances are in the crosshairs. Mortgage rates could soar, stocks might plummet, your retirement savings hanging by a thread. With just a few strategic plays, Beijing could rattle Wall Street like never before. The world we knew, where Silicon Valley ruled tech and the dollar ruled trade, is fading fast. Welcome to Dragon Valley. Once viewed as a follower, China is now designing the future. From AI and 5G to quantum computing and chip design, the epicenter of innovation is moving east, and it's happening fast. Silicon Valley used to be the beating heart of technology, but now China is building the nervous system of a new world order, one where it doesn't just participate in global markets, it defines them. Factories across China are now operating with an unprecedented level of self-sufficiency, capable of producing advanced semiconductors entirely without reliance on foreign suppliers. This marks a monumental shift in the global tech landscape. These facilities, once dependent on Western technologies and imports, are now driven by domestically produced lithography machines, etching equipment, and precision testing tools. From raw silicon to fully integrated chips, the entire process is increasingly powered by Chinese innovation. Homegrown giants like SMIC, Seekar, and Byron Technology are not only manufacturing cutting-edge chips, but also engineering the very software and electronic design automation, EDA tools needed to bring these semiconductors to life. tools once dominated by US firms like Synopsys and Cadence. Meanwhile, China's push into digital finance is evolving at breakneck speed. The digital yuan, officially known as the ECNY, has moved far beyond its pilot stage. It's now live, fully operational, and gaining traction across both domestic and international markets. Already integrated into e-commerce platforms, public transportation systems, and international trade payment systems, the ECNY is reshaping how financial transactions occur, eliminating the need for intermediaries and reducing dependency on the US-controlled SWIFT network. The spread of this digital currency is being facilitated by diplomatic and trade ties with over a dozen nations, particularly in Asia and the Middle East, embedding China's financial footprint deeply into the infrastructure of global commerce. This fusion of technological self-reliance and financial sovereignty signals a bold new era, where China is no longer following in the footsteps of global tech leaders, but forging its own path with the tools, currencies, and innovations that may soon become global standards. This isn't a pivot, it's a complete rewrite of the global script. And it's not about catching up anymore, it's about leading on their terms. So here's the big question. When this new system becomes the norm, where will you stand? The future of money, the future of technology, and possibly the future of global power? All of it is shifting beneath our feet. And Beijing isn't asking for permission. They're building the future anyway. President Trump has already warned of 50% tariffs if China doesn't retreat. But China's response? We won't back down. And they're proving it. This is more than an economic conflict. It's the reprogramming of the global order. From your smartphone to your savings account, everything could be touched by the outcome. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next chapter in this global showdown is already being written. And trust me, you'll want a front row seat when the next domino falls.